Hi, and welcome to Art with Mrs. Cat. For this project, we're going to be making an Egyptian cartouche using our own name, but following a few steps that I'm going to lay out for you guys. So you're going to need the following for this project. You're of course going to need some paper. You want a thick paper, like a mixed media type paper or something like that, because we will be doing a wash with a water-based medium that is, it can make your paper wrinkle. So if you're using like a really thin paper, like printer paper or something like that, it's not going to be ideal. It'll fall apart in this wash. So you would want to use like mixed media type paper. Next, you're going to need some instant coffee. I prefer to use instant coffee because I don't have to like heat water and brew coffee to use it for this medium. However, if you don't have instant coffee, but you have someone that can brew some coffee for you, if you are, like a middle schooler or something like that, and you need a parent to take care of that for you, they can brew you some really strong coffee and then wait for it to cool, and then you can use it as well. But instant coffee, we'll just add it to water in a bowl, and then we'll use that for our wash. So you'll want some instant coffee, some water, some type of a bowl that you can mix it in. A pencil, of course, because we lay everything out in pencil first so we can erase our mistakes. An eraser if you want. A brush. I would recommend like a larger brush for the washes, and then some waterproof type pens. So that could be like a Sharpie or a micron pen, some type of like an alcohol ink or something like that that's not going to bleed too much when it gets into the paper. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm gonna put some water in here, okay? And then I'm gonna add some of my instant coffee to this, okay? Actually oops, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna have to stir it, oops. I'm gonna have to stir it to get it to dissolve. Okay, so I'm gonna take the brush that I'm using and I'm just gonna stir it. And you guys see, like I didn't use hot water, I just used water out of my bottle. Okay, and so I am gonna stir it. And this is kind of a thick, you can see how dark that is because this is a white bowl and it's like very dark, and that's kind of how I want it. Okay. All right. So, okay, and that's what you want. You want it to be really dark because when we put it down on the paper, you can always add like more water to it or something if you need to. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, and you can kind of see how dark that color is there. I'm gonna fill my brush with it, and then I'm just gonna like start painting my paper with it. And you want it to you want to go in different directions. You don't want to go in like the same direction. Now, an alternate to this, guys, if you don't have coffee and all that good stuff, you can use tea bags. So you can get, like you make like hot tea with or something, as long as it's a dark tea bag, like a black tea or something, you can get some hot water, put the tea bags in it, and then you can take the tea bags and actually like put them on your paper and move them around. All right, so we're gonna just speed this up. As you can see, I'm just brushing in different directions. I'm going back over areas as they start to dry with even more coffee to really layer and add those different textures and darknesses. I'll even go in, you'll see later, and I'll actually add water to it to kind of wash out some areas. And so it's just kind of playing back and forth with water and coffee paint. So you just want to have fun with it, kind of create that texture. Do it as dark and heavy as you want or as light as you want. You do want to have some variations in darkness and lightness and different values there, but it's really a lot of fun to just kind of play around and see what happens when you add water, more water, or you add more of the pigment to this.
Alright, so we did our first step, which was to stain our paper with coffee. We used an instant coffee to do that, and that was in that previous step. Of course, remember we had this dark wash or stain that we created with the instant coffee mixed with water, covered our paper, added some different areas that were darker and lighter, played around with water, and the patterns and designs that it makes on this paper. It just gives the paper this kind of cool old weathered look. So it was just white paper. So now the next step we're going to do is we're going to use hieroglyphics to make our cartouche, okay? So we're going to make our own Egyptian cartouche, and a cartouche was basically a nameplate that the Egyptians used to identify who they were, okay? So you can see that there's hieroglyphics over here, and those are the ones that we'll be using. What we want to do is use our pencil first, and we're going to go in a line kind of in the middle of our paper. You don't want to start at the very top because you won't be able to do the cartouche design, but we're going to do kind of a line with our hieroglyphics. And if your name's really, really long, you can shorten it if you want to. So my first name is Jessica. I'm going to do Jessie, Jessi, just because Jessica would be really tall. So I'm just going to shorten it to Jessie. So I'm shortening it to 5 letters instead of 7. And that'll help with my design. Okay, so what we're basically doing is one hieroglyphic on top of the other. So you'll start, find your starting point. I'll probably start right about here. That leaves me a good amount above that to do my, border of my cartouche. Okay, so as always, we want to start in pencil, because if we make a mistake, we can fix it if we do it in pencil. Alright, so of course Miss Capel I have to tilt my paper sideways. I can't always do it like this. So that's just the way my hand works. Alright, so if I look at J is like a little snake. So I want to start right here. Okay, so I'm going to do my little, it's like a round head. And then do my little snake body. And my little tongue. Alright, so there's my J. And then my E is the next thing. So it looks kind of like this. Okay. And then I'm going to do 2 S's. And they look like this, kind of like a cane. And then an eye, it's kind of like triangle. Okay, so I just did all my hieroglyphics stacked that way. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is in pencil, I want to draw an oval around this. Okay, and then I'll be adding my decoration. And then I'll go over everything in pen. Okay, so I'm going to do my cartouche outline. All right. So I'm going to do an oval around this, and then I'm going to do my decoration on the outside that kind of makes it look like a rope border. So that's what I'm going to see. I'm going to speed this up, and then we'll pick up with the next step after that. All right. Okay, so when I finished penciling everything in, I'm going to go over it in a marker with ink. I'm going to add some depth to it as well. I'll also go in with some pencil and add some shading. But the first thing I want to do is go over all these pencil lines with ink, and this will then allow me to start adding in some depth and some shading, and then we will finish up. So again, I'll speed up this process, but you'll see I'm going to go over everything with ink, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so once I've gone in with my marker lines, I'm going to go in and clean up the stray pencil lines that I have. And then the last step I'm going to do after I erase all those pencil lines is I'm actually going to go in with my pencil and add a little bit of shading to some of these areas just to really emphasize like some depth and make it pop. All right, so once you've done that step, you add your shading in with your pencil. You can use your finger. You can kind of see how it's on my finger. But you can use your finger to kind of smooth out that pencil or charcoal, whichever you choose to use, to add in some of these lighter shadows and drop shadows to really bring in that dimensionality and depth to your cartouche. When you are finished with that, you'll take a picture, turn this in, and I can't wait to see your finished cartouche. I'll see you next time on Art with Mrs. Cap.